Hi, this is James Gordon Rockshore Live here with the first book review in the Moreau series. First book I'll be talking about today, Forests of the Night by S. Andrew Swann. Oh, look at that gorgeous cover artwork. I really like this cover. This is by Jim Burns, who does excellent cover artwork. Alright, this is from Dawn, and this is from July 1993. This is a science fiction, crime, thriller, mystery book, and it's a really good book. And this, so yeah, this is the first book in the Moreau series, and this is an excellent book. It's very well written, very detailed. When I was reading this book, it's very detailed. Swann puts a lot of detail in both characters, places, and he puts a lot of backstory on a lot of things. So there's a lot of lore in the story too. And when I was reading this book, there's a lot of there's great scenes of atmosphere in the book. Like when I was reading this book, I was imagining like the dark, gritty world that this book is set in. It reminds me of a lot of like late 80s, early 90s science fiction action films like RoboCop, Total Recall, Alien Nation, Demolition Man, and even the first-person shooter game Deus Ex. It reminds me a lot of those, like these like alternate like dark future worlds where it's like crime is out of control. There's like a lot of fictional like cars and weapons and stuff, and there's these big powerful corporations that don't care about people. They don't give a shit about anyone but themselves. They just want to make a buck. And you got these other characters that are trying to both not only stay alive but just trying to do their job in this violent future. And this first book is really good. And I was actually reading some interesting backstory on this book, because I only have the first paperback of the series. I only have that and the fourth book in paperback, and I have an omnibus edition which has the other two books, which actually has the first three together. I was actually reading, Swann got the idea, basically, he was inspired by the movie Chinatown and decided he wanted to do something kind of like Chinatown but add science fiction themes and stuff, and he had this character that was kicking around his head, Nohar Rajasthan, the tiger character, which is the guy holding the combat rifle. He tried to write this as a short story. It didn't do well, and he just kept trying and trying until eventually some people found out about. I was reading. Basically, he shared the idea with someone who really was interested and said, write a novel of this. This will make a good novel. So he ended up writing it and getting finally lucky published by Dawn. So this is a really good series. I was going into one day, and I was checking out if other books have been reviewed by other books I like have been reviewed on YouTube. Not a lot. And there was this one channel that that they didn't even review the book. Basically, it's this 30 to 40 minute video of these two assholes just laughing, making fun of everything in the book, and it's like they're getting off on laughing gas. They're poking fun at the book, the title, everything. I thought, this is not how you review a book. So I decided to do a proper review of an excellent series by this great author who has written some really good books. So enough about the rant. Anyway, I will talk about what this book's about, and then I'll discuss what I like with it and go to more detail after my review. Alright, on to the book review. Plot. Set in the dark future in Cleveland, Ohio, where there's animal people known as Moreaus. Ex-soldier of Tiger Stark, Nohar Rajasthan now works as a private eye, mostly taking cases in Moreau Town. Heavily built, well-trained in combat, and can think fast on his feet, Nohar knows how to handle himself. While in a bar called Zero, Nohar refuses to leave till Nuglia, a Japanese pimp, pays him for tracking down one of his girls, who Nohar found dead, and blames him for making her become a junkie. Nuglia attempts to have Nohar removed with two enforcers, a tiger armed with a Russian assault rifle, and a bear woman with a combat shotgun. Nohar quickly grabs Nuglia's left arm, twists and breaks it, and uses him as a human shield. A bartender of Fox whips out a soft shotgun aiming at them as Nuglia is about to give in when suddenly an Afghan dogman enters the bar wearing a long trench coat and is armed with Hassan's pistol. Hassan orders Nohar to drop Nuglia when a shootout suddenly happens. Nohar dives for cover when the bear blows the bartender's head off. Hassan takes down both the bear and tiger, then executes Nuglia with a headshot. When Nohar emerges, Hassan explains he was paid to kill Nuglia as a hit was put on him and advises him not to work with humans. Nohar replies, "No shit." After getting let off by the police, Nohar returns to his rundown apartment. While it doesn't offer much and his room needs a few repairs, but at least his shower is big enough to fit his large body frame. Also living with him is a stray feral cat. After taking a shower and resting on his couch while having his TV on, as all the news talks about politics, ongoing gang violence, and topics that Nohar doesn't care about, he's awoken to a call coming from his a computer terminal and vid phone. He answers it to see Bobby, a police chief for the Cleveland PDA, as he tells Nohar the FBI is looking for Hassan, but Nohar states he has no idea where he went and isn't interested in Nuglia's case anymore. Nohar then notices an auto message left on his comm. He plays it with a client offering him a job and wants him to meet at Lakeview Cemetery at the grave of Eliza Wilkins. Nohar quickly gets dressed, leaves his apartment, and walks down the crime-ridden streets with heavily armed cops on patrol, graffiti-covered walls, human and Moreau gangs roaming the streets, and a mixture of pre-war and modern cars while it's pouring rain with mist in the July heat. At the cemetery, an old van pulls up with the back doors opening, releasing a loud hissing sound. Nohar can feel the heat coming from it as a humanoid person of body fat appears. Franks, as they're mostly called because of their Frankenstein-like appearance. The Frank introduces himself as John Smith and is the CEO of Midwest Laboratory Imports that specializes in mining gemstones from South Africa. One of their top employees, Daryl Johnson, was found dead inside his home and was ransacked. The police were unable to find the killer and frustrated they won't reopen the case. John Smith wants Nohar to find Daryl's killer, believing it's one of their own. He offers Nohar $5,000 along with another after he solves the case. Nohar accepts the case as he needs the money badly. After collecting the money from an ATM machine, Nohar is about to enter his apartment when two rat men appear and threaten him for money. Nohar grabs the one rat gang member, Big Boy, and twists his arm, forcing him to drop his switchblade. Furious attempts to pull out a gun when a white rat woman, Taryn, orders the two rats to stop and leave Nohar alone, but warns him the zipperheads will be back next time. As Nohar enters his apartment, he removes his trench coat, and there's two video messages for him. First, it's Bobby, and he warns him about the DEA and FBI are keeping tabs on him as they learned a large payment of cash was sent to his bank account. Nohar sends back an audio message telling him not to bother him unless they have a search warrant. Next message is from his black Jaguar girlfriend, Mara, who's leaving him as their relationship has been going too well. After staring at the screen for a bit, Nohar brings up the library page and begins looking into both Midwest Laboratory Imports and Daryl Johnson. While going over and gathering data, then downloading it onto a memory card, Nohar asks a friend for help. He visits him at a bar, Watership Down. Nohar explains his case with Manny, is against it, but knows he can't talk Nohar out of it, and replies he'll do what he can, but warns it's dangerous getting involved with humans. Manny gives Nohar a card containing the crime scene and autopsy report on Daryl. Reading the report, Daryl was shot in the back of the head with a Levitt Mark II sniper rifle. The bullets are compressed carbon dioxide with impact-sensitive plastic explosive impregnated with shrapnel. It's specially designed to be quiet so the shots are impossible to hear. It was a favorite weapon used by the Israelis during the Third Gulf War. However, something doesn't add up. The killer missed Daryl hitting a painting in his room, as Daryl should have reacted after his window was blown out, but didn't. And the second shot blew his head apart. And who stole the $3 million as police failed to find any evidence? He's starting to wonder if this was a cover-up. Going through the photos Nohar gathered from the library, he spots a woman posing with Daryl and seems to be a couple. He finds out the woman's name is Stephanie Weir. After getting her address, Nohar drives over to her house in his old, dusty yellow Ford Jerboa. When he gets there, Stephanie lets Nohar enter her large, fancy house and fetches him a cold drink. While sitting in the living room, Nohar asks Stephanie about Daryl. He finds out that they weren't a couple either, though he did like her, but reveals Daryl was gay and Daryl had enemies, including Joseph Binder, who disliked Daryl a lot and was one who paid off the cops to close the investigation. After getting all the answers he could, Nohar leaves Stephanie as he finds her attractive. Nohar then goes to visit Philip Yun, the finance chairman for Midwest Laboratory Imports, after being unable to get a hold of him through his comm. Phil lives in a rough area of town, and when Nohar finds his house, it's very worn and in disrepair. Nohar enters but catches whiff of strong gas fumes in the air. Nohar finds Phil in the garage with bloodshot eyes and hasn't slept. Nohar tries to calm him down as Philip states he won't allow them to kill him so easily like they did with Daryl. Slowly itching his way closer, but Philip snaps and wounds Nohar in the shoulder before the whole garage explodes. Nohar awakens in the hospital with Bobby, who saved him from being arrested by the DA as they want him. Knowing they'll show up, Nohar attempts to leave by escaping through the garage. However, he bumps into Stephanie, who wanted to know what happened to Phil. Nohar explains as she takes him to her Plymouth Antius. The next day, Nohar checks out a ranch that belonged to Daryl, where Yun lived secretly with him till he was murdered. Nohar wonders if Yun knew the killer or had any part behind his lover's death. Nohar then drives through the city in Moreau town, trying to find where the sniper could have made the shot. He reaches an L-shaped rundown apartment, as it's the highest building that will give the sniper the best view of his target. While searching, Nohar finds a young rabbit woman lying on the floor naked and has been drugged with flush. Nohar awakens her and offers her help. She reveals her name as Angel and is looking for a place to stay after being left for dead by the Zipperheads. Angel also tells him she saw Daryl's killer. After returning to Nohar's apartment, Angel reveals the events of what happened and how she ended up in an abandoned apartment building. Angel was part of a gang as they were fighting against the Zipperheads. During the intense shootout and a car bomb set off by the Zipperheads, Angel fled upstairs, bumping into the assassin, as it turns out to be a Swann. He drugged her and left her, believing the drug would kill her, and the Zipperheads took off, believing she escaped. Fearing he's stepping into a political murder, Nohar goes to get his father's Vindy 12mm combat rifle. He hasn't touched this weapon since leaving the Hellcat gang years ago. Stephanie calls Nohar, believing her life is in danger after refusing to return back to Midwest Laboratory Imports after finding out they were behind Daryl's death. She adds that Harrison threatened to blackmail her if she didn't return and would be given a raise to keep her silence about this cover-up. Nohar also believes that there's a link between MLI and the Zipperhead gang. Nohar goes to visit Stephanie at the Case Western Reserve University, with Angel joining them. Stephanie tells Nohar what information she knows, along with the pressure of both Harrison and Binder. Nohar adds what he believes is going on, confirming his suspicion with John Smith, the Frank who hired him for the case, is the one behind Daryl's death. Suddenly, Angel notices a smell in the air as Nohar picks up the odor too. It's Taryn, and her gang is here. A car bomb goes off, followed by the Zipperheads running towards them, armed with soft shotguns and Uzis. Nohar whips out his Vindy, shooting at the rats as they try taking out Stephanie. Nohar is wounded during the shootout, but takes out all the Zipperhead members. Angel grabs a soft shotgun as they flee to the parking garage and escape in Stephanie's car. Nohar recovers from his wounds, but this failed assassination attempt seems to be part of a bigger conspiracy, with a sudden increase of gang violence across America that threatens morals with a law that will ban them from immigrating and tighter laws against them. If this bill is passed, it could trigger another riot or worse, a war. Nohar races against time, trying to get to the bottom of this case while trying to keep Stephanie and Angel alive, as they are been marked for death, including himself, from gangs to assassin and law enforcement. At the same time, Nohar begins to get closer with Stephanie, putting their lives at risk. Time is running out for Nohar with a case that might be his last if his instincts can keep him alive. Forest of the Night is a thrilling sci-fi crime story with lots of action and well-written characters in this dark, ultra-violent future. Heavily detailed in locations, places, people with a lot of backstory, creating a well-layered plot. I also like the little nods to pop culture that Swann adds in this novel. There were many moments of intense action, twists and turns, backstabbing, and corruption going on within this novel. Reading Forest and I reminds me of a lot of late 80s and early 90s science fiction dystopian action films along with the video game Deus Ex mixed with the animal people. The writing structure and pacing was excellent. There was never a dull or slow moment in this novel, and not once did I get bored with it. I really like the characters Nohar Rajasthan and Angel a lot. They're, they are a lot of fun to read along with some humor within the story too. Overall, I highly recommend Forest of the Night along with S. Andrew Swann's Moreau series. If you want a dark science fiction crime thriller novel that's different and with animal people, then you'll like Forest of the Night. You won't be disappointed. Alright, that is it for the review today. Hope you enjoyed it. As I said, I had a lot of fun reading this book again. It's been a long time since I read this book, and I discovered this series actually with the fourth book actually when me and my dad went up to Southampton years ago on a vacation, and I went to this convenience store and I was looking through the book. They had a bunch of books on like this little spindle thing, and I was like going through it, and then while I was looking through it, this is the book that caught my attention as it stood out. I really liked the cover of it, and yeah, this is just a really nice cover. So my dad bought me this book, and I read it, and I loved it, and I want to get the other books in the series. So then my dad got me this, which this is the omnibus edition of the Moreau series, which has the first three books together. Forest of the Night, Emperors of the Twilight, and Spectres of the Dawn, which Emperors of the Twilight is the next book I'm going to be reading. And yes, and all those covers are done by Jim Prince, really good artwork. So yeah, so I'll be starting off the second book, and this is just a really good series. I really like it. It's very well written. The pacing is good. It's never rushed. It's never too slow. It's right in the middle, just where I want it, and the writing structure is excellent throughout this entire book. The other thing I like about this book with the series is that it's very well written and detailed. There's a lot of scenes where it has atmosphere in it. So when Swann is describing a scene in the book, he puts all this detail in it, and you can just visualize the whole world of this Moreau series. As there's parts where he tells what the character is doing, but then he'll go on and add highly detailed scenery, which I really like when authors do it. They paint a clear picture with their world, with their words, and you can visualize what's going on in this book. There's a scene early on in the book where Nohar is watching the message of his girlfriend, his ex-girlfriend leaving him, and Swann just puts all this detail into this scene, and it's just I can visualize this whole scene in my head. And the rest of the book, he just does this with this I'm visualizing what Cleveland will look like in the future, kind of like RoboCop, basically, where it's this dark dystopian future. And yeah, despite all the the grid and all this crime and stuff going on, there's beauty to behold within this as well. So that's one other thing I really like about of this series. It's very detailed, and I like that in books, especially when authors they go the extra length to put all that detail into their stories, so you can visualize what's going on in it. As S. Richard Swann is a really good writer. He's written two other conundrums. I have his one book he wrote under a different conundrum, The Omega Game, which that was interesting, and I got a couple of other books. And this guy, he writes all kinds of things. He does science fiction, fantasy, crime. I think he's done some horror, but he mostly focuses on science fiction, fantasy, and there's a new novel he came out a few years ago. It's an urban fantasy book. I'd like to check that out. Marked, I think it's called. But this Moreau series is one of my favorites by him. I really like this book, and as I said, it reminds me a lot of the video game Deus Ex and the movies like Total Recall, RoboCop, Demolition Man, and Alienation. Just these movies where they're set in these crime-ridden dark future dystopian worlds, and there's crime is out of control. There's gangs. There's graffiti on a lot of graffiti on the walls, and you got police that are using military weapons to combat the increasing crime and stuff. And you got corrupt corrupt corporations just like pulling the strings and doing things they're not supposed to be doing and stuff. It's such a fun book, and I really enjoyed it. If you've not heard of this book, I highly recommend you check this book out. It's a really excellent book. It's got everything. It's got, science fiction, crime, mystery, conspiracies, and it's furry themed book too. So if you're looking for some other furry fiction, I recommend this as well. So that is that. That is the first book in the Moreau series. I'll be moving on to the second one. All right. That's it for the book haul. Book haul. That's it for the book review today. Hope you enjoyed it, and please don't forget to like my video, share it, and subscribe to October Library, the YouTube channel, and the Facebook group of the same name, a place to post fiction. Until then, I'll catch you later.